International Media TV. Television that listens to you.
Hi, I'm Johnnie Burrell. Welcome to the program.
I want to zero in on the subject because I want to spend time for dialogue. I don't want to just come to Allen Temple and have something to say without some call and response.
All right.
Oh, I've come to learn and listen as much as to present. But I want to begin on a personal note, because anytime you talk about overcoming structural violence to reduce health disparities, building the beloved community, you already are beginning with certain assumptions, and these assumptions do not take the form of propositions, they take the form of certain lives. So I want to be honest with you. I am who I am because somebody loved me. Somebody cared for me. Somebody attended to me. You can't talk about building the beloved community if you don't begin with your own experience of being loved that allows you to cultivate the capacity to love, to care, to be willing to serve others. That's what I love about Samuel Merritt University. Founded in 1909 to do what? Care, nurture, keep track of those who have been wounded and bruised and scarred. That's what it is to be part of a sacred profession, be it nursing or any other kind of therapeutic practice in a market-driven society in which to care is to make you countercultural. You have to cut against the grain. So in my own experience in reflecting on building on the beloved community, yes, I think of Irene and Clifton. The highest reward I will ever have in my life is being the second son of Irene and Clifton West. Oh yes. The brother Cynthia, Cheryl, and my brother Clifton, being a product of Shiloh Baptist Church on the chocolate side of Sacramento, California. Willie P. Cook, best friend of J. Alfred Smith Sr. They go hand in hand. They mutually empower each other, and they embody the best of a great people, of a chocolate people, of people who've been terrorized and traumatized and stigmatized for 400 years, but somehow still muster the courage to tell the truth and to bear witness. I'm talking about pastors of a church, not CEOs of an enterprise. I grew up in a church that had mega love, but we were not a mega church.
Say that.
We had mega courage. We were not a mega church. We didn't need to buy planes to fly in the sky. We were trying to empower our elderly because we loved our grandmothers and grandfathers. So we were trying to empower our young people because we understood there was a war going on against them in terms of their souls as well as their bodies, attacking them in their schools, attacking them from television, attacking them from the music that they listen to. This was a spiritual war and a political and economic war. That's what Willie P. Cook, that's what J. Alfred Smith Sr. understood and passed on to a fallen young Negro named Cornel West. And I'm nothing but just a moment standing on the great legacy, and that includes the greatest preacher in the latter part of the 20th century, the Reverend Dr. Gardner C. Taylor, who just passed on Easter Day at the age of 96 years old, the older brother to Martin Luther King Jr., the friend to Malcolm X, the only church in New York that was willing to allow Malcolm X's funeral to take place. That's how cowardly so many of the churches were in the Big Apple when it came to Malcolm X. That's the Gardner C. Taylor we're talking about. That's the one molded and shaped on the ground, but always looking up, building the beloved community. And he also had, like this choir, a choir, not a praise team. Because they sing songs in order to stir your soul, like the soul stirrers of Sam Cooke and Johnnie Taylor and Lou Rawls. They didn't just sing 7-11 songs that stimulate and titillate your body. You know those 7-11 songs got 11 words in them and they sing it 7 times. Over and over. Where's the story? Where's the narrative? Where's the drama in your song that touch souls so people can straighten their backs up? You can't talk about building the beloved community unless you straighten your back up, and to be niggerized in America, to be told that somehow you're less beautiful, less moral, and less intelligent, to be told that you have the wrong hips and lips and noses and hair texture and skin pigmentation. You need something to straighten your back up, and anytime you straighten your backs up, those are great Sly Stone called everyday people. Oh, and they straighten their backs up, they're going somewhere, because folk can't ride your back unless it's bent. Straighten it up. Sly Stone said, stand, you've been sitting much too long. There's a permanent crease in your right and wrong stand. There's a midget standing tall and the giant beside him about to fall, and then Sly went theological. He says, stand, there's a cross for you to bear, things to go through if you're going anywhere. That's the same Sylvester Stewart and Vallejo that grew up in the church where they sang, must Jesus bear the cross alone and all the world go free? No, there's a cross for everyone, and there's a cross for me. You know, what I love about those who pass through Samuel Merritt University, in a society that projects wealth and power and status as somehow the only way of being in the world, they decide the way of the cross. And I'm using the cross now as not just that particular cross that Palestinian Jew named Jesus died on, killed by the Roman Empire and all of its arrogance and hubris. I'm using the cross as a metaphor. Unarmed truth, unapologetic love, and let us never forget the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. And anytime somebody claims to be telling the truth about the human condition and doesn't allow suffering to speak, you can rest assured they're lying. Or they're deodorizing the truth. And I come from a people that want to keep it funky. Oh yes. Yes, we're going to keep track of the shadows. Don't tell us just the light. We're going to keep track of the bruises that people are overlooking. That's why Brother Walter Scott in South Carolina brings tears to our eyes. Because we also have an unapologetic love. But it's a love that understands that justice is what love looks like in public.
All right.
Just like tenderness is what love feels like in private. And what black people, in 400 years of dealing with American terrorism, and never forget it, the black church is an anti-terrorist organization. It's fighting terror, psychic terror, spiritual terror, social terror, physical terror. Where you gonna get the courage to tell the truth and love in the face of terror? That's the history of the best of not just the black church. It's true for the black synagogue. It's true for the black mosque. It's true for the black temple. It's true for John Coltrane's Love Supreme. What you gonna say, Mr. Coltrane, in the face of terror? Listen to this. Let me take you to some darkness you know not of. Let me take you to some struggles that you ought to know about, and then somehow still straighten his back with unbelievable dignity and style and speaks the truth from his soul as he understands it, doing nothing but what? Affirming the anthem of a blues people, which is lift every voice. It doesn't say lift every echo. It says, lift every voice. We live in a society where the echoes dominate. People are afraid of lifting their voices in every sphere of our society. Oh, Samuel-Merritt University said, we're going to produce some students committed to care, committed to nurture, committed to unarmed truth, allowing the condition of truth to speak, and committed to unapologetic love. We're going to love especially the weak and the vulnerable. That's why we're here in East Oakland. That's why we're in the hood. That's why we're in this church. Even as a university that has the option to do a whole host of other things in other contexts, we're coming here. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And when we talk about the health, we're talking about their psychic health, their spiritual health, their social health, their physical health. They go hand in hand. We are holistic. There's a connection between the spiritual and the social, the economic and the existential, the personal and the political, because you are in love with the whole person. And let's just be very honest about it, y'all. Even in this Ferguson moment, with this marvelous militancy among our younger brothers and sisters of all colors, but disproportionately chocolate. It's a beautiful awakening given the sleepwalking that's been going on for the last 35 or 40 years with the massive transfer of wealth from poor and working people to the well-to-do. But 1% of the population used to own 20% of the wealth. Now they own 43% of the wealth and gaining every day. In the last 6 years under the present administration, the top 1% gained 97% of all the income growth. They need it like I need a hole in the head. And yet 40% of our precious children of all colors live in poverty in the richest nation in the history of the world. That's a moral abomination that's ethically obscene. And 22% of all children of all colors, each one of them precious, living in poverty in the richest nation in the history of the world, with the wealth inequality increasing. You can't talk about reducing health disparities unless you talk about targeting poverty. Where are the voices talking about poverty these days? Don't look for it in the political system. No, not at all. One party, right-wing, mean-spirited, cold-hearted, tied to big money, big banks, and big corporations. The other party, milquetoast, spineless, tied to big banks, big corporations, big money. Where are the voices? Concerned about poor people, working people. How do we muster the courage to tell the truth and commit it to something bigger than ourselves in such a way that we're willing to sacrifice our popularity in order to tell that truth and bear witness? It has everything to do with the 4 questions, and these 4 questions I want to raise especially for the students at Samuel-Merritt University. The 4 questions raised by the greatest public intellectual of all time in the history of the American experiment, in the history of the American empire. His name was W.B. Du Bois. He was 89 years old, living in a house arrest in Brooklyn. One friend could visit him, the great Paul Robeson, living under house arrest in Philadelphia. Both of them viewed as traitors and un-American. In 1957, Du Bois says, I want to write a love letter to the younger generation, those who are concerned with building the beloved community, the just community, the moral community. And so he embarked on the writing of 3 novels. Can you imagine that? 89 years old, and said, I think I'll embark on a trilogy. No, that's why we love Du Bois so. Oh, he loved us so. We turn to page 275 of that first novel, The Ordeal of Mozart. He says, I've been wrestling with these 4 questions all my life, and here we are, 2015, still wrestling. First question, how shall integrity face oppression? To be a student, Samuel Merritt. To be a parishioner of this church. To be a citizen in this society. To be a human being on this planet. To come to terms with the question of what kind of human being are you going to be in the short move from your mama's womb to tomb? You're going to have to wrestle with the question of how shall integrity face oppression. Now, unfortunately, we live in a society that oftentimes is living in denial. So they get surprised when a precious brother like Walter Scott is shot down like a dog by a policeman who oftentimes does it with impunity, with no accountability or answerability whatsoever. That's just normal. That's become so naturalized. What has happened every 28 hours for the last 10 years, last month is 111 of them. It's happening all the time. That's at the peak of an iceberg. How shall integrity face oppression? First, you got to get out of your denial. Get out of your bubble. Shatter your vanilla suburb. Realize there's other realities out there. Realize there's other children of God out there wrestling and trying to make sense of the world. It's not just about you, as precious as you are. It's about others. But oh no, in America, we're obsessed with cupidity. And all of us need money, but there's a difference between making money and fetishizing money. From the top to the bottom, it's all about cream, cash rules, everything around me. That's what Wu-Tang Clan say. But it doesn't have to rule me. That I can aspire to integrity. Because I have a memory of a grandmother and a grandfather. I have a memory of a people who struggle. I have a memory of a tradition that said in the face of oppression, I'm wondering how shall integrity face oppression? To be committed to integrity in America is to be countercultural against the mainstream. I try to say that to the young musicians these days.
Say it.
That folk making $1 million and can't sing in tune. Because it's not about singing in tune anymore. It's about having the right label and the right image, giving the culture superficial spectacle. It's just a matter of remaining visible by any means necessary. And you end up with spiritually thin music, so you can't have a soundtrack for your movement. I ask the young folk all the time, we got this Ferguson moment, who you gonna listen to? Rihanna ain't gonna do it. God bless her. You're going to need some Aretha. You're going to need some Curtis Mayfield. You're going to need some Gil Scott-Heron. You're going to need some Nina Simone. You're going to need some Sly Stone. You're going to need Fat Napoleon, the Isley Brothers. You're going to need, for God's sake, we got to give more power to the people of the Shiites. You're going to need a soundtrack for your movement. That's spiritual warfare. It's no accident that we don't have groups among our young people that actually constitute singing groups like the Dramatics and the Delphonics and the Whispers and Enchantment and Main Ingredient and Emotion and the Jones Girls. No, they just put a microphone in front of somebody's face all by themselves to manipulate and control and remain on the superficial level, the surface level, not telling the truth or bearing witness. Even when they're lyrical geniuses like Kanye West, and he's not my cousin, but I like him. Or Jay-Z and the others. Because it's all about money. You see, John Coltrane showed up to Malcolm X lectures and sat on the second row with his horn, and the agent said, you must be losing your mind. He said, don't you realize it's about the music, it's not about the money, it's not about my career. I'm trying to keep alive a tradition that goes all the way back to Charlie Parker. And and Louis Armstrong and Mary Lou Williams. That's why I put up my house for sale when my best friend went to jail named Elvin Jones. Because I can get another house, but I can't get another Elvin. That's love supreme, y'all. You can't talk about building the beloved community unless you learn how to love. And love is always a form of death. You've got to learn how to die in order to learn how to live. You got to learn how to die in order to learn how to love, because something inside of you needs to be murdered so that the best of you can move forward. There is no rebirth without death. There's no development. There's no maturity without something dying in you, critically calling into question things about who you are, what assumptions you have, prejudices you have, the male supremacy, the homophobia, the anti-Jewish hatred, the anti-Muslim hatred, the anti-Arab hatred inside of you needs to die. It needs to die. That's what education is. That's the difference between education and schooling. Schooling, you just get a skill and you're the same person you were before and after. You just got a skill. Education, you've undergone transformation. You've undergone some metanoia. You've undergone some turning of your soul in such a way that you're stronger, you're more fortified, you're ready to fight. And you're full of rage. Now the one thing America fears more than anything else is black rage. Oh, get Negroes upset. Everybody start walking. Oh Lord, Jamal is mad. Letitia's upset. They coming together. They organize and they mobilize. I heard about the state of black Oakland. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. How could you look at the world? The levels of health disparity. The decrepit education generating soul murder too often in the young people. The trade unions pushed against the wall, so the bosses get more and more of the package. The profits at the top, hemorrhaged at the top, not trickling down. How can you look at that world and not be full of rage? Where's your righteous indignation? Where's your moral outrage? Where's your holy anger? The challenge is always going to be, will it be channeled through love and justice, or will it be channeled through hatred and revenge? Oh, that's the question Du Bois is talking about. How shall integrity face oppression? Second question, what does honesty do in the face of deception? We live in the age of mendacity. Lies everywhere. And mendacity is a kissing cousin of criminality. The health condition of poor people in America is a crime against humanity. The killing of any innocent person, let alone those who are the descendants of 244 years of white supremacist slavery and 90 years of Jim and Jane Crow, nothing but American terrorism, is their descendants, those who look like me, shot down like dogs with no accountability. That's a crime against humanity. $500 billion put in the prison industrial complex in the last 30 years, but can't find a penny when it comes to quality education, jobs with a living wage, decent housing. And we're not even talking about the bombs the drones are dropping on innocent folk in Pakistan and Yemen, Somalia. 203 children and counting. That's the American empire at work. Where's the moral outrage? 500 Palestinian babies killed in 50 days. And not one American politician can raise their voice and say, this is wrong, this is immoral. Where's the outrage? It's just a matter of telling the truth. But of course the challenge is, and Du Bois understood this, that when you convince a people to be so afraid and scared and intimidated. So almost by instinct, after a while, they start laughing when it ain't funny and scratching when it don't itch and just wearing the mask in order to be successful. And they're so obsessed with being successful, they forget about what they ought to be faithful to. So we got a whole 2 generations now who have been taught that all those who came before to sacrifice for you loved you to death, loved you through the darkness. They just want you to be successful, to have material toys with some status in society, even as you become well adjusted to injustice and well adapted to indifference. When I went to the Vacation Bible School, they taught me that indifference is the one trait that makes the very angels weep.
Yeah.
Indifference to evil is more evil than evil itself. That's why those nurses are on the way to East Oakland. Oh, we're going to have a cultural sensitivity. We're going to understand the context of these precious black folk. And at the same time, we're human beings that can connect on the deepest level because we are committed to integrity and telling the truth. And honesty. We got something to learn and we got something to bring. We in this together. Oh, yes. But we have to be honest about the deceptions, the lies that are told over and over and over again. I was just in Chicago, spent 3 days trying to push out Brother Ron Emanuel, trying to push him out and bring in Brother Garcia, Jesus Chue Garcia. But we lost. Main reason why we lost, the black and the brown couldn't get together. No, too many black folks still on the white plantation. And they're on the gravy train. All they do is give money. The preacher's just lining up, forgetting about Jesus. It's cash now. And the problem is what? Too many black folk look at brown folk through white supremacist lens. Too many brown folk look at black folk through white supremacist lens. Can't keep track of humanity. Divide and conquer. We know it's a challenge. We know we're pitted against each other in the market, giving the elites at the top that's manipulating things. We understand that. We got to have enough courage to see the truth. It's difficult. It takes a while to wake up. It takes a while to take a risk. It takes a while to sacrifice. The boy's 89 years old. Still sending out love letters. Isn't that something? Oh, the third query. What does decency do in the face of insult? What does decency do in the face of insult? And we can add assault, attack. To be decent in America is to be countercultural. More and more fellow citizens are regulated by the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught. Morality pushed aside. I'm trying to get over. Because more and more it's a matter of the survival of the slickest. I got off the plane at 11 o'clock today. I went straight to the courthouse on Golden Gate. Is it an avenue or a street in San Francisco? It's an avenue, definitely. It's Sister Blanche Richardson, too. I want to salute her. My God, thank God for her Marcus books. I was thinking about her on the way in. And I went there for the courthouse. Why? Because there's a big case right now of the black pilots against United Continental after the merger. They got pushed out. They followed all the rules. They were the most meritocratic. They were the most skilled, and they still got pushed out. So oftentimes we're told, well, the problem with the black brothers is they don't pull their pants up. There's a whole lot of black men I know with great intelligence, imagination, and dignity who pull their pants up, and they still catching hell. They're still catching hell, just like these brothers. Almost all of them come out of the Air Force and still pushed out. On a continuum was our precious brother Walter Scott. We pray for his family. But Walter's dead. On a continuum. How do we attempt to be decent in the face of insult, attack, and assault? The last query the great Du Bois raised: how does virtue meet brute force? Because one of the things that separates black folk from most fellow citizens, our indigenous brothers and sisters understand this well, and Latino brothers and sisters understand it well, but it has to do with the fact that black folk, we are continually in the face of potential or actual raw violence. So when I see Walter Scott, I remember all the times I could have been a dead Negro because the police had messed with me so many times I'd have lost count. Potential or actual raw violence. Most of our fellow citizens can't understand it. How could that be? You don't view the police as some helpful folk who always got a smile on your face. I say, what world are you living in? And I don't trash the police across the board. They're working class too. They got to deal with the social problems the same way public teachers do. Given the levels of poverty, given the levels of neglect, given the levels of social abandonment, indeed. But at the same time, when you have a police culture that allows for the contempt of poor people. And even the good ones won't raise their voices because they don't want to be pushed out of that police culture. Then Du Bois's question still has relevance in 2015. How does virtue meet brute force? Amen. And this is true for those who come out of Samuel Merritt University. That third week you're going to look around and see the precious black folk telling you stories of something you may not have heard of before. How could this be? Is this America? This is as American as cherry pie. It's just a side of America that you haven't been exposed to. And the question would be, how deep is your love? How committed are you to justice? How courageous are you to bear witness to the building of the beloved community? This is the challenge. And I want to end again with the music, because in talking about these very, very difficult and delicate issues, we downplay some of the raw stuff. You see, we go back and read Martin Luther King Jr.'s eulogy for Malcolm X. What did he say? He said he had one of the sweetest of spirits. So people don't associate Malcolm X with sweetness in the mainstream because he was such a truth teller. Even when he was wrong, he was sincere. So when he was right, he was soulful and right. There's a difference between you speaking the truth as you understand it at the moment and then in retrospect recognize you were wrong. He said, white brothers and sisters are devils. I said, no, Malcolm, I think you're wrong, brother. But I see the point you're making. Too often they're engaged in devilish behavior. You're right, Malcolm. Then I look at myself. I got devilish behavior. I'm right about myself. Shoot, I was a gangster before I met Jesus, and now I'm nothing but a redeemed sinner with gangster proclivities. The best I'll ever be. That's the truth. So I understand gangsters, be they on Wall Street or be they on the corner. I just got an armor that comes from a people who loved in the face of hatred, who refused to create black Al-Qaedas and black ISIS in the face of 400 years of terrorism.
All right.
They dished out Frederick Douglass, and they dished out Ida B. Wells, and A. Philip Randolph, and Marcus Garvey's. They dished out Donny Hathaway's, and in the face of terror, in the face of trauma, they refuse to engage in wholesale traumatizing of others, or at least aspired not to. They didn't want to reinforce that cycle of terror and trauma. How do you break it? Integrity, honesty, decency, a sense of virtue. In these days, anybody who opts for those four, in the face of oppression, in the face of deception and lies, in the face of insult, and in the face of brute force, you're going to have to cut against the grain. And that's the word that I want tonight. You see, you don't overcome structural violence. You don't deal with reducing health disparity. You don't deal with trying to alleviate massive inequality, hatred and revenge, unless you decide to straighten up and decide in the depths of your own soul, I am going to be a person who aspires to integrity, honesty, decency, and virtue, and I'm going to do it with others, other courageous ones who organize and mobilize, who are willing to tell the truth about the American empire, who are willing to tell the truth about predatory capitalism and all of the ways in which it tries to convince us that to be alive is to be stimulated and titillated and to fetishize cash rather than to be carers and nurturers. I'm going to tell the truth about white supremacy, still so deeply entrenched, even with a black president, black attorney general, black cabinet, homeland security, white supremacy deeper than ever. Deeper than ever. And I say to myself, how are you going to have three black faces in the highest places, and yet black brothers and sisters still getting shot down like dogs every 28 hours? That's a Keith Sweat moment. Something just ain't right. But most of the black leaders don't want to say a critical word about the black president because Fox News is on him so tight. And I say you can tell the truth about Fox News and you can tell the truth about a black face ahead of the American empire who could not even facilitate the federal prosecution of one policeman that has killed so many of young black people. Can't even give a major speech on it. To go up to Newtown, Connecticut on that side of town and have tears in his eyes. That upsets me. They say, oh, Brother West, that's you hard on Obama again. No, I'm not hard on Obama. I pray for him and his family every night. Because they're children of God just like me. Yeah. But he's still head of the empire, and he has choices to make. And when he chooses Wall Street over Main Street, when he chooses massive surveillance over rights and liberties, when he chooses drones over withdrawal of drones, and when he got three of the black folk at the very top, but still got all of this killing, and all they can do is come up with more investigations. I know and you know that if those precious children were vanilla children from Newtown, Connecticut, there would be some prosecutions of police in the last 7 years. That's just a fundamental fact. And I'm going to say it out of the truth, the love for the children, because I was so loved. And I will never, ever forget that love I received. And I'm going to spread it and be faithful unto death. That's what we want our students at Samuel Merritt. That's what we want at Allen Temple. That's what we want in East Oakland. That's what we want in the nation and in the world. Thank you all so very much. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.